When huge corporations, IBM, General Motors, General Electric, General Dynamics, any of the generals or any of the other big companies decide that they don't want to use the market anymore. They don't want to buy an important input the way they used to. You know why? Because they don't like the fact that that depends on the producer they buy that stuff from doing a good job, having the stuff ready, having it at an acceptable price at the right time. Whoa, that may not be forthcoming. These producers that they buy from may not be reliable. And you know what the big companies then do? They buy them. They bring them inside the corporation. And then they plan how much that subsidiary is going to produce and what is going to be done with it. They end the market by buying it into themselves. In fact, the leadership of all large corporations is continuously assessing the market versus planning, not as we're one, not the other, but in a completely different way. How to make them both work for us in this corporation. So if they think it's more profitable to buy from another company and sell to another company and to move things around that way, they do that. If they don't think that's the best, most profitable thing for them to do, they buy the company they sell to, or they buy the company they buy from. It happens every day. Then they bring that company into the corporation. And you know what happens then? The output of what used to be an independent company is now inside, and it's planned. How much we're going to produce, who's going to get it, what's going to be done with it is no longer a market transaction, no longer buying and selling, no longer competition. It's in-house. Big corporations plan what they do, and the kinds of planning they do is very similar, here we go now, to what the Soviet Union did on a national level. It's very similar to what socialists have talked about when they've talked about planning for a century. You sit down and you try to figure out what's the most efficient, effective way to produce these things that we need and to move them from the producer to the consumer in a way that gets the job done. Planning is something corporations do. On the 4th of July, the CEO gives a speech about the market, the market, the market. But before and after the speech, he's in the boardroom of his company working out the plan for the next year's activities, which are all about producing these quantities and moving them where the people involved in producing and moving are not buying and selling that material. They may decide to take something in-house and sell it off to make it an independent company. That happens, just like the reverse happens. Well, now let me go from that combination every corporation plays with, market and planning, and show you that the same thing happened in the Soviet Union and always happens in socialist countries. Do they plan a lot? Yep. Do they use markets also? Yeah, of course they do. The Soviet Union used markets all the time. Some markets were very close to what we call free markets. The producers were on their own, decided what to produce, how to produce, where to produce, when to produce, and when they were done, they sold it on the market. The government didn't bother them, the government didn't care. Many foods in Russia during the time of the Soviet Union were handled in this way. Then there were other things they did not allow to be handled in a market. They wanted to control things like grain, the basics of food. They wanted to control much of their industry, so they had that planned. But it was, yep, a mixture of planning and markets, not the either or of the ideological battles, but the combination that made sense to those people. Now, it is true that the United States tended to downplay and minimize the government planning things or that kind of activity, but that didn't prevent corporations from planning, and the government always had to do a good bit of planning also. And likewise in the Soviet Union, they tilted towards planned economy, but they also saw that they needed and could use the market in all kinds of ways.